Happy Easter, everyone. My name is Ryan Cam. Happy Easter to all of you who celebrate. A yearly tradition on this channel is that I talk about something that's a little more faith-based in honor of the holiday. The past couple of years, I talked about the Prince of Egypt and the Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And the common denominator in both of those has been my friend Rachel from Rachel Reviews. And guess what? She's back this time, making it three in a
Yay.
row. Rachel, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing
Happy
great.
Easter.
Happy Easter to you. Thank you so much for being on. So,
Yeah.
so this year, to kind of carry on what we started with the Prince of Egypt, also shout out to Durbin. He's busy at work working on The Chosen, so I hope that goes well for him. To keep along with that, what we started with the Prince of Egypt, I thought we could cover this year the forgotten, sort of kind of prequel to this, if we're going by books of the Bible, Joseph, King of Dreams. This was released in the year 2000 from DreamWorks, and this is basically an animated version of the story of Joseph and the Coat of Many Colors. Basically, Joseph is seen as a child of God. He is cast out. He is sent into slavery, and he basically, this is the story of the stone that was once rejected has now become the cornerstone, and he finds himself at rock bottom. Only using the power of God and God's help, he lifts himself up to to basically make himself better than he once was. So, Rachel, what was your first experience with this film?
I watched it a couple of years ago for something. I can't remember, for the channel, or for the blog. I can't remember. But yeah, I did watch it a few years ago. So I didn't see it when it came out because I didn't even know about it because it just kind of got a you know, directed DVD release. And so I probably would have seen it because I was pretty religious, and I love Prince of Egypt. So yeah, but I didn't see it until a few years ago.
Yeah, the whole release of this movie is honestly just kind of weird. It was released in November of 2000, and you would think that a movie with the voice talents of Ben Affleck, Mark Hamill, and Jodie Benson would have gotten a little more publicity, but
Mhm.
no, that didn't happen. So it has gone firmly underground for a lot of years, and
Mhm.
I really didn't watch. I saw it in my youth group once before. I know that, but
Mhm.
I didn't rewatch it until fairly recently when myself and my podcast partner Jacob Martin, for his podcast discussing DreamWorks, we watched it for that because we're going through all of DreamWorks in chronological order. And I was like, Joseph King of Dreams, I really cannot remember that one. And it honestly kind of shocked me at my thoughts on this. So why don't you go
Well,
first?
also, I was in college in 2000, so I wasn't watching as many animated films, and just
Oh,
I bet you if I had been living at home, where my, younger siblings would practically get every animated film that came out, I probably would have known about it then. But because I was in college, I probably missed it. And it was kind of a not the greatest time period for animation, like the early 2000s. So I had kind of taken, I guess, a little bit of a break, and then would kind of come back later on in the decade.
yeah, that post Disney Renaissance period was a little rough. And I mean, I'm sure you would know about that a lot more than I would.
Yeah. Yeah.
But just general thoughts on the film itself. What do you think of this movie overall?
I think it kind of depends on what you're comparing it to. If you're comparing it to other faith-based films, it's pretty good, I would say. It's pretty high up. It just tells the story. It doesn't like preach at all. It doesn't really try to have any kind of contemporary messaging. It's just the pretty much the Bible story with, a few additions and things, but pretty much the story. If you're comparing it to Prince of Egypt, it doesn't compare. I mean, you're talking, in my opinion, one of the best anime films ever made. In the Prince of Egypt, I absolutely love that movie. Everything about it, I pretty much love, and so That's it, that's where it becomes tricky.
Yeah, because Prince of Egypt is pure quality,
Yeah.
and we discussed that at length in that video. But yeah, comparing the two is just it's not even fair because Prince of Egypt is just like that's Everest. That's like at the top of the mountain. And Joseph King of Dreams, in comparing it to the two, it's like a little hill compared to Everest. However, like
Yeah.
you said, when comparing it to other faith-based movies that we've gotten, especially in the like say the 2010s, it's outstanding.
Yeah.
Because I mean, and I don't want to have this devolve into a rant on like Pureflix and other things, but it's just I feel like the movie in a lot of ways has aged pretty well. There's some stuff that I don't like, specifically the CGI stuff, but I'm sure we'll talk about that. But I think 23 years later, or almost 23, I think the movie I think the movie's still solid, especially for direct to DVD.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And it has one banger song that Better Than I is an absolutely beautiful song. I actually the first time I heard it was at a recital. Somebody sang it and I was like, "What is that song? That is a great song." And I looked it up. I'm like, "Oh, it's from this random random animated film." So I think I know I heard the song before I saw the movie.
Yes, I actually rewatched that specific clip in preparation for this, and that song combined with where Joseph is at the point of the story where he's been falsely accused. He went from the Pharaoh's most trusted advisor to basically the hole, and to where he's basically nursing this dead tree back to life, and that combined with the visuals and the words, it's stunning. That's the best way I can describe it. It's stunning.
Yeah, it's a great song. Great
The,
song.
the rest of the songs are, I mean, Better Than I is the best, but I think the rest of the songs are just as good.
I think they're fine. Like they're good songs, but that one to me is on like another level. It's a great song.
I think it's pretty obvious that Ben Affleck is not singing.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Because, I mean, I love Ben Affleck, don't get me wrong, but I don't think him singing would have been the best idea. Like, let's bring in the singer, and then whoever they did get to.
David Campbell is the name, says Joseph's singing voice.
Oh, well,
Yeah, there you go.
shout out to him.
He's amazing. Such a good voice.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, you can tell. That's true.
because I know what Ben Affleck's voice sounds like, especially in this movie. So to go from him to this completely different person, it's really jarring.
Yes. I mean, it's true, but it's just such a good song. It didn't bother me too much. And it's just an interesting story because of all the Bible stories, it's one where I think you can relate to almost every single character because you can relate to the brothers. You've got this, first of all, the competition, it being a half brother, that's already kind of threatening, that they know that Joseph's mother is more prized by their father than their mother, and that he is so doted upon, and he is kind of, especially the way they treat it in this movie, he is kind of arrogant and frustrating. Like I definitely can imagine myself getting frustrated with Joseph and being a little jealous. I don't think I would take it to the point of like killing him. That takes it to a new level. But you can empathize, I think, with the brothers. But then you can also empathize with Joseph because I mean, how horrible to be have this happen to you and be taken away from your family and in this strange world and everything. And so I think it's an interesting Bible story.
Yes, I as a matter of fact, rewatching some clips for this, for this review, and especially to the like in the beginning when Joseph has the coat, he's got the "I am a miracle child," like that song. Even though I'm rooting for Joseph, at the same time I'm like, yeah, you kind of brought it on yourself with the whole braggart thing. I
Hmm.
mean, the Bible has tons of stuff on arrogance and how pride cometh before the fall and all of that. So yeah, it's good that you see yourself in the eye of God. I mean, thumbs up to you for that. But at the same time, you got brothers who like are working themselves to death
Yeah.
and talking behind their back is I'm just like, okay, yeah, selling him into slavery, that was kind of a jerk move, but I mean, Joseph kind of earned it. So it's complex. That's the
Hmm.
best I can describe it as
Yeah.
complex.
But then you understand him as well because he's partly this way because of the way that his father in particular treated him, treats him as being this sort of special, gives him this special coat and says he's a miracle child because Rachel was infertile. And so he behaves in the way that he's kind of taught to behave. So it's an interesting Bible story in a lot of levels. Like, yeah, I mean, obviously didn't deserve to get beaten and sold into slavery, but but you can understand the envy. You can understand uh, why they started on that path to get there, to making that decision. I don't know. It's a really uh, interesting Bible story, Old Testament story.
Well, it is very rough what happens to Joseph. I think, and the movie does a good job of showing this, is I think that was for the best for him because when he starts out, he's very doted upon, like you mentioned, but by the end, he is a completely different person. So
Hmm.
I believe that God has a plan for us all and that everything does happen for a reason. So we may not understand our hardships now, but maybe with some hindsight, it might have been for the best. We might not agree with it at that exact moment, but thinking about it, like, yeah, I think I needed that. At least that's my experience anyway.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, because God is omnipresent. He sees what's before, he sees the past, he sees the present, and he sees the future. And so he can he works like with our agency to allow us to have the experiences that we need to have.
Yeah, and there's a lot of ups and downs because one minute Joseph's in the prison,
Hmm.
but then I'm trying to find the dude's name. He's the Pharaoh.
Potiphar.
Potiphar, thank you.
Yeah, Potiphar.
But then Potiphar has the dream and is like, Joseph, I'm having this dream. What does it mean? And then we have the whole famine feast for 7 years and famine for 7 years, and then Joseph predicts it and gets it right, and so it just is a good thing that like he's like, yeah, we need to start preparing, and they do,
Yeah. So
and
that's Pharaoh. Pharaoh's the one who has the dreams about the preparation. So, but Potiphar is the one who gets because so Potiphar finds him after he's been sold into slavery, and Potiphar brings him into his house, and then it's his wife, Potiphar's wife, who tempts Joseph, and he refuses to be tempted by her, and that's what gets him in jail. And then when he's in jail, that's when he tells the dream of the servant of Pharaoh, and so then that he's going to be released. And so then when the Pharaoh starts having the nightmares, that's when his servant says there was this man in prison that that interpreted my dream. And so then they bring in Joseph to interpret the Pharaoh's dream.
oh yeah, thank you for clearing that up. I was clearly getting the two mixed up. That's on me, but yeah, that's a great series of events, especially after Better Than I and the whole lead into that. It's a beautiful little sequence, and also shout out to the woman. She's voiced by your girl Jodie Benson. So
Yeah.
so that's crazy to think about.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's who he falls in love with, Asenath. Um,
Yeah, they have very Egyptian names, so I'll probably butcher these a couple times. So
yeah. So the pharaoh's, I guess it's a cupbearer and his baker, they're in the prison, and he reveals that one will be put to death and the other will return to his position at the palace. Sure enough, the baker is executed and the cupbearer is returned to his job. The cupbearer, however, forgets his promise to tell the pharaoh about Joseph, leaving him in anguish in the jail. And that's when we get the better than I. And that's, like we said, that song is so good.
I think this is as good a place as any to go into the animation because like 8 times out of 10, the animation for what this format is gorgeous. The CGI stuff has not aged the best. And keep in mind, this is the year 2000, so I think a degree of leniency is more than justified. But the
Yeah.
dream sequences, oof, they are hard to watch.
Yeah. I mean, it all depends on what you're comparing it to. If you're comparing it to Prince of Egypt, obviously no comparison. But if you're comparing it to other direct to DVD animation of that era, like the Barbie movies, for example, the CG is probably better than those Barbie movies. um, I don't know. I think a lot of things are like that in life. It's like, are you what are you comparing it to? Like, uh, is are you comparing, like, if you eat something, are you comparing it to like fast food, or are you comparing it to fine dining?
Yeah,
You
that's a
know?
good point. And I think the thing that saves it for me is how creative the dreams look and just
Mm-hmm.
how it lays out of 7 years of feast and then 7 years of famine. The
Mm-hmm.
creativity of how it is all laid out, I
Yeah.
thought was very imaginative. It
Mm-hmm.
just 2000s era CGI, and it just you feel it.
You do have to kind of wonder of who this movie was really made for, though, because it doesn't seem like a story that kids are particularly going to be drawn to. And not that all animation needs to be for children, we know that. But I think most direct to DVD animated films are for children. You kind of wonder. I mean, I know that there are lots of scripture, films, but I don't know. You just wonder kind of like who were they thinking this would appeal to?
Yeah, that's interesting. I never really considered that because it's I feel like there are a lot of more adult themes in this that could be
Hmm.
like I feel like we're going to overuse the word complex that may
Yeah.
fly over the heads of some kids.
Yeah, because you've got like Potiphar's wife tempting Joseph. Like that's a pretty big concept for kids to understand. Of course, if they read the Bible, then they will have even more. There's some even more salacious scenes in the Bible in the Old Testament, certainly. But yeah, it's kind of interesting to think about that. I mean, we used to have uh there was a company called Living Scriptures that would make stories about the Bible and Book of Mormon. I think they still exist. I think they're still making movies. But yeah, they were the same company that made the Swan Princess. Did you ever see that Swan Princess?
I believe I saw the Nostalgia Critic review of it, but I have not seen
Uh,
it. I've not
well,
seen beginning to end.
it's a decent movie. It's not like great, but it's fine. And so it's kind of funny. You see like the same caricatures and the same like basic character designs for to play like Moses or to play, whatever. And they have, so we did enjoy those growing up. So maybe I guess that's sort of the appeal, is the kind of the Christian uh family crowd. I don't know, but
Though,
yeah.
and I'm trying not to bring up Prince of Egypt because it's like the two are different in terms of quality, but Prince of Egypt dealt with a lot of adult-ish things too, but that I thought was handled a lot better than this.
Yeah, I mean, it's a more cinematic story, with the miracles and the plagues and the brother against brother, and all that stuff is very cinematic. Party in the Red Sea. Then Joseph. I don't think what would be um what Bible story I would pick. I actually just saw there's a new movie called His Only Son about Abraham and Isaac, and that's a very hard story. I mean, what God asked Abraham to do to sacrifice his son. That's a very hard story. I'm trying to think what else would be like a good story.
I have not read all of the Bible, but I can understand because the Bible has a lot of things in it to where you'd be like, "Ooh," and it's like
Yeah.
oh boy, I can't.
Yeah.
But that's harsh. So
maybe
it's
may-
difficult.
maybe Esther. That might be a good story. I know they have done film versions of Esther. I mean, you could do Noah, but really that story is bleak. I mean, it's
Yeah,
kind
and
of crazy that you see Noah on like nursery decor and stuff like that when it's about literally almost the entire human race getting drowned.
not to mention the last Noah thing we got was the Darren
Oh
Aronofsky,
yeah.
which was trash. But let's cross that bridge in another year, shall we?
Yeah, it wasn't the best. I
But
give you
I
that.
remember I've never seen this one, but I was working at the library and I saw this DVD returned. They made a version of the Mary Magdalene story with Rooney Mara
Mm.
as Mary Magdalene.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'd be
Hmm.
very interested to see that.
Yeah. I wonder how you could do that and make it animated.
Because
That it could be. It could be.
how do we get
Uh
around the fact that Mary Magdalene was Mary Magdalene?
yeah, that's the thing. Like, how do you make it, I don't know, how do you make it subtle?
I mean, you could imply it, but at the same time, then kids would be like, "What does she mean by that?"
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's hard. It's really hard.
Hmm.
So I
Yeah.
so when I see so many movies about the Passion of the Christ, and Passion of the Christ is a very harsh story, but it's a story that everyone knows and can understand.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's true. And it's the core of what Christianity is all about. So it's really important to understand.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah. So it's good that we keep telling it. But yeah, so this is an interesting Bible story. It kind of it just it has a lot going on really when you think about it, because you've got Joseph and his brothers and that whole story. You have the Pharaoh and his dreams. You have the Potiphar's wife tempting Joseph. And of course, we have the Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat from Andrew Lloyd Webber, which is fun.
That has some
Very
good
over the
songs in it.
top.
That has some good songs in it too, that
Yeah, it
Any Dream
does.
Will Do and all that.
Hmm. Yeah. So it's interesting. I think that probably the 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 aspects about Joseph and his brothers is probably the best part of this movie. But I do like though when he is imprisoned and he, like I said, I love Better Than I. It's so good.
Yeah, and I really like the ending too, because when Joseph finally gets to where he is in power and his brothers finally return, and that whole thing with the chalice, you're like, Joseph, I see what you're doing, and I'm kind of trying to understand, but at the same time, you and your brothers have come a long way. So maybe find a way to forgive. And he
Mhm.
does, but it's again, it's complex because his brothers did him dirty, but at the same time, he's in a much better place now. And so
Mhm.
the whole taking revenge thing, it's like the whole eye for an eye leaves the world blind kind of thing.
Mhm. Well, and what's interesting too, when you think about the story in the Bible, that him forgiving his brothers and him becoming a leader in Egypt is what allows the Israelites to be in Egypt, which then they become become servants. So this is like, so it's interesting to think about that would then lead to the Prince of Egypt, as you said, like a prequel.
Yeah, it's a very nice lead in, especially at the end to where they go to Egypt. I'm like, uh-oh, that's not going to end well for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a very nice end of one book and the beginning of another thing that
Hmm.
I do appreciate.
Yeah, and the animation, like you said, does have the CGI animation, does have that 2000s CGI look to it that you would have things like the Barbie movies and stuff like that. And you have to kind of get used to that. It's not like the most pleasing. It's kind of hard, but I feel like, and I've said this in my Barbie reviews, that the stories are good enough, the characters are good enough that I can forgive the bad rendering on the CGI.
Yes, I definitely agree. And I'm usually lenient because making animation of any kind is, from what I have seen in documentaries and shorts, like just unbelievably hard. So
Yeah.
I don't throw that criticism around lightly. I understand that it is incredibly difficult, and
Yeah.
when it's done right, it's some of the most beautiful stuff you've ever seen in your life. So I'm not trying to be a troll or some kind of a jerk or anything. I come at it from a place of love, if that makes
Mhm.
any sense at all.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I think they did the best they could at the time. And I think that the rest of the stuff is strong enough that I can forgive that. I do kind of wish the Better Than I was in a more significant movie. I just is such a good song that I think it deserves to be in a better movie. But it is kind of interesting that that during the dream sequences that they kind of have us like a surrealist approach, which I think was a smart way to go. Like they kind of look sort of like Van Gogh esque kind of style. It's in certain parts, and I think that was a smart way to go because since they couldn't get the CGI to look as good, why not go sort of a surrealist, where you don't have to like where you don't have to necessarily look super realistic. I think that was smart.
Yes, I do agree with you on that. And I think, unless I'm missing something, I think that's a good place to bring it all to put the period at the end of the sentence. I think for my final thoughts, I think I would consider this movie underrated. It's
Hmm.
certainly not perfect, and it certainly shows its age in places. And I think that its themes are dealt with better in Prince of Egypt and other things. But I think for the year 2000 direct to DVD, it is much better than I think that it had any right to be.
Yeah, I agree. I think that for what it's trying to do, it does a pretty good job of it. You've got this story from the Bible, and it tells the story well, and it has a great song and some nice parts of animation, some good voice performances. So for direct to DVD, again, it all tells what you're comparing it to. But if you're comparing it to other DVDs from 2000s, it's pretty good.
Yes, I agree. Well, what did you all think of Joseph King of Dreams? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Love to read what you have to say. And Rachel, thank you so much. It is a privilege to do this with you every year. And this movie is actually available on Peacock, which is a nice way to roll into the fact that Hidden Gems' latest episode is currently up on Rachel's channel. We're going to be talking about Peacock this week, so it's always fun.
Yay!
And then other things on her channel, her classical musical month just started up, but I'm sure Rachel, you can break that down a lot more.
Yes, I just started the classic musical month with my review carousel. Definitely check that out. I would really appreciate it. And I have family movie night every Monday. And then over at Hallmarkies podcast, we have lots of fun stuff going on over there, interviews and recaps and really fun stuff. So check that out.
Yes, family movie night, I believe for the next couple of ones is you're on the road to Suzume. Did I say that right?
Yeah, so I had three of those. Yeah. So I had Garden of Words and Puss in Boots Last Wish and Weathering with You reviews. So those are all up on the channel as well.
I'm actually kind of excited to see that, and I've actually
Me
found a
too.
theater close to me that's actually going to
Ah,
show it. So I'm
oh
definitely
good.
going to go out of my way to see it because that's the same director who directed Weathering with You, which I absolutely love.
Yeah,
So I will
he's
definitely be
amazing.
going out of my way to see that. But subscribe to Rachel's channel. It'll be linked in the description. Also subscribe to the Hallmarkies podcast. She's got a lot going on there. If you want to talk more about that.
Yeah, well, we cover all things Hallmark, rom-com, holiday. We have a ton of fun.
Yeah, the Hallmark repeatedly tries to kill Rachel with Christmas movies every year, and they
Yes,
haven't got her yet.
not yet.
They start in like early October and they go way
Yeah,
past December.
it's true.
No, but I mean, she started a whole podcast network around it, so clearly she loves it.
I do. I have so much fun.
So subscribe to Hallmarkies and subscribe to Rachel's personal channel, linked in the description. Do certainly go and do that. But as for this channel, thank you all so much for watching. If you liked the video, please be sure to leave a like, comment your thoughts down below, and leave a subscribe and click the bell to allow notifications. That way when a new video drops, you'll be the first to know about it. For Rachel, my name is Ryan Cam. We will see you in the next one. Happy Easter. Take care.
Happy Easter.